Did you see Craig Jones's brilliant video about Dana White being a fight pimp? Yes, he compared him to Iceberg Slim. Notable quotes from the video, quote, "In the words of the great pimp Slim, the coldest game isn't when when a man gets robbed, it's when he starts defending the man who robbed him." This is Craig talking. Dana's fighters don't just fight, they perform wealth, borrowed sports cars, sponsored private jets. They sell a dream, not just to the fans, but to themselves. The illusion isn't convincing; it's contagious. Yes, I did see this. This is on the B Team YouTube channel. As I didn't spend a ton of time talking to Craig this week, but I spoke to him a little bit, and we talked about this video. Um, um, what do I want to say about it? It's really well made. It's not very long. I think it's just 10 or 12 minutes. And he did another one of these essays like this when he was getting after Islam, talking about Canadian wrestling, and that the Dagestani guys actually all borrowed from GSP. That's sort of like the central contention that's made. I think that this is, I mean, Craig is his own guy, right? So, like, on a basic level, the kind of criticism of power that MMA media, at least on some level, kind of used to do, even then it was not much, is now completely gone, leaving it to people like me and people like Craig, who's very different than me, but these kind of outside the sport figures who can clearly see the bigger picture and that no one is talking about it, and so they want to weigh in, and he's using kind of the tools that he understands more easily how to do, which is, you know, um, these kind of street metaphors to make it both kind of tongue in cheek and funny, but also serious at the same time. I mean, but I think what he's really getting at is something that we all kind of understand here, which is, I mean, someone, who was it? Someone I was talking to. I was talking to this morning. Here we go. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Okay. Jesus. I got a fucked up email. Craig, to me, is a very bright guy, and I've said this before about his jujitsu and what I've learned from it, which is that he has really kind of thought about jujitsu, particularly as its relationship or its usefulness in MMA, but in just in broader context than that too, and kind of said, "Hey, the way things work aren't working. We should do them differently." And he kind of sees, like, he took a long look at jujitsu and was like, "There's a bunch of problems with the way we do this. This doesn't make a lot of sense." And he, by his own admission, stole stuff from wrestling and folk style and freestyle and other kinds, because they had kind of solved some of those problems. And we've talked about it before about pinning and things like that. But the point is, like, he took a critical eye to something that people just hadn't really taken. I mean, it wasn't the first one or the only one, but he definitely was a really important one to take a critical look at what was happening and be like, we should do this differently. And I feel like he can take a critical look at, especially now that he gets into the promotion game with CJI, where he can look at the game and be like, we're not doing this the right way. This just should not be this way. And then, he's there on the ground level, both in these MMA camps and certainly in sport jiu-jitsu, and seeing the kind of rationale that these guys are, and ladies to an extent, are employing to justify their predicament or the way things work. And he's trying to ask them on a fundamental level to look at it differently. So he's using these sort of, Iceberg Slim as this kind of vehicle to make this happen. But at the core of it, what is he asking you to do? He's asking you to see the truth of something that you otherwise might not see, because you aren't attuned to it, or because you may not know, or because if you're in that world, you might just not even question the assumptions of the world that's been built around you. And that's just not something that Craig's ever done. He takes a very, very critical eye. You can see the through line in how he views the world. And I think we're all better for it. You need people to see things like this, to be able to articulate not merely a different vision of how things could be, but I would argue a more truthful vision. I don't know about the pimping metaphor, but in terms of what it's trying to underscore and highlight. I don't know what kind of effect it will have, because if you voice these kinds of views, then the people who have power in this industry will do their very best to lock you out of it. Um, you know, that's another reality. So, what kind of impact can you actually have? But as I've always said, I don't understand what the purpose is of there even being truth if you're not allowed to speak it. Like, what the fuck is the point? If you're only allowed to say a certain amount of things that you're allowed to say, what difference does truth and falsehood matter? That's not what the game is being constructed around. The game is being constructed around what things do we, or the people in power. This is true more broadly in the American media class too. What kinds of things do we allow and tolerate because they're not threatening to us or our interests or alliances or some kind of order that's established that benefits the people who get to say who has say. Truth and falsehood don't matter in that world. They're not the relevant piece. They're not relevant. They're not. That's not what's driving those considerations. What's the point of the truth if you're not allowed to talk about it? It's worthless. Oh, well, we know these things are true, but if you can't say it and you don't say it, it might as well just be false. It doesn't matter that it's true. We should be free in a world to say things that are true. Otherwise, what the fuck is the point? Can you imagine living your life that way? I was thinking about this the other day. Part of the reason I got into this job was I was working here in DC, and I've said this before, I was working at a place where I was so fucking unhappy that I had terrible health consequences. You know what? Let me have an honest moment with you guys. I've been really thinking about this. This is true. I was thinking to myself, like, man, I'm doing fine. Like, I am totally comfortable. I make a very comfortable salary. I have health insurance. My wife works. I own my home outright. My car is kind of I won't call it a beater, but it's not old, but I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, I'm not rich financially, but in that sense, in the broader perspective of things, I'm as wealthy as I could ever be. And I was thinking to myself, why can't I just shut my fucking mouth, you know, and just go along with it in MMA, especially when the stakes are so low? Like, who gives a shit about cage fighting? But the reality was, I just kind of reminded myself, or at least it came to mind when I was thinking about this, which was, as I mentioned, I had this career here in DC that I fucking hated. Oh, I hated it. I hated the people I worked for. I hated the job. I hate what it meant for my soul. I hated it. I hated it. And there's nothing illegal. In fact, that was part of the problem. I mean, I was just doing fucking speech writing. It's not like some crime, but just the people in that world, like, who needed my help and what they needed it for, and just how fucking gross they were. God, I hated it. It made me feel bad about myself. All my fingernails fell out. I lasted not much long. No, not even. I think just right at 2 years. I couldn't do it for very. It was awful. And of all that time at the place I was, by the last year of it, man, maybe like 9 months, I was only doing private clients. Like, I wasn't even doing political clients anymore anyway. So, like, even then I was doing like the most, anodyne stuff, which it was totally anodyne, and it didn't matter. Like, I just didn't even want to be in the company of these people. So I quit, and I said to myself, I just can't ever do that again. And here I am in MMA, and it's like, I could have just gone along with the whole thing. I could have, hey, you know what? Fighter pay doesn't really matter, and I don't give a fuck about these people, and blah blah blah. All the stuff, that has gotten me into trouble over and over again, and it has locked me out from certain rooms over and over again, and has limited my ability to fully sink my teeth into all the opportunities that the industry has to offer, even when I was very, very close to getting them. Like, it has absolutely hurt me in so many ways. But at the same time, it's like, dude, I got into this job so that I didn't have to fucking go along with some other rich, powerful assholes version of what they wanted the truth to be. It was the whole fucking point. The whole entire point was that. So fuck it, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going to happen with the future of MMA or MMA media or YouTube media. Maybe the whole shit collapses. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'll be locked out from all the best stuff. I really don't know. And maybe if, I was single and trying to pay alimony or something, I'd feel differently because of the financial strain. But I can just tell you right now, I am so fucking glad I never did that. I'm so very glad. And again, this is not treating this like some kind of like, oh, this is some free speech victory. I mean it that way. I just mean to myself. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't make a life out of just talking about things that rich, powerful people want you to talk about. And they're not even paying me. You know what I mean? They're not even paying me. Dude, people in this industry will say things that a person doesn't approve of, and they're not even being paid to do it, just out of fear. Fuck that. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. I don't give a fuck. Nope. So I appreciate Craig for how outspoken he is, relatively speaking, and for the kind of unique vision that he's got about how things should be. And MMA and jiu-jitsu is better off for his inclusion.